Well, here we are again for Kdog's movie weekend. Well, I didn't watch one last night because I was just was kind of exhausted and from the work week. It was kind of hot and humid. But today we are back at the AMC show place. Well, it used to be called AMC show place, but the AMC Muncie 12. And today we're going to check out Deadpool and Wolverine, or Wolverine and Deadpool, whatever whatever it's called. I kind of lose track of some of these superhero movies, but I've seen all the Deadpool films, and I think they're funny. I think this is a perfect role for Ryan Reynolds to be playing the part, and of course, bringing back Hugh Jackman. My brother has already seen it. He said it was really good and pretty funny. So I'm going to go in here. I'm also going to try to get a souvenir that AMC sells. I didn't see it on the website. I bought it before, and I bought it when I went to see Horizon, and it was just a little cup thing that lights up. But however, it fell off my kitchen table and it broke. So I'm going to try to see if I can get another one. If not, also, well, it's still in my house. It's just being a decoration right now, but I want to actually use it as a drinking glass. I never got to put any liquid in it to see how it looks when it lights up. Okay, but so we're gonna go in here. We're gonna see the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie, and come back out and see what I think about it. Well, I was unsuccessful in trying to get a replacement Coke cup, but that's because they were just plain out of them, and they were on to something else involving Minions. But yeah, but still got to see Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, this was a this was an action-packed laugh riot, as much as you would expect out of the Deadpool franchise. This one was directed by Sean Levy, who you may know from, believe it or not, he was director of the Night of the Museum movies and Real Steel, and he is behind. He's a producer on the show Stranger Things, and so this was his directorial debut for Marvel Studios. It's not his directorial debut by any stretch, but it's his first Marvel movie, and of course, this movie. I'm going to spoil this much for you. This entire movie is nothing but I'm going to say like a homage and poking fun at the Fox Marvel properties. Because obviously this is Deadpool and X-Men, and Deadpool actually was part of the X-Men canon, but this is where they really poke fun at the Fox properties, and as well as the non-Fox properties, because there was, when Marvel was first really coming into its own, Fox was the first one to make. They were the first ones to make They were the first ones to make like a franchise movie out of Marvel Comics, starting with the success of X-Men. Okay, so that's where this kind of began, and then they followed up with X2, X3, and they didn't talk about Spider-Man. There is a little thing in there about Spider-Man, but it's more of a motion reference. But this was more poking at the Fox Marvel properties. But like I said, they also poked at some of the other properties. Because Blade is in the film. Wesley Snipes as Blade is in the film. Now, Blade was a part of, now, believe it or not, New Line Cinema, a Warner Brothers property. So why would Warner Brothers dip their toes into DC I'm mixed up. Why would Warner Brothers want to dip their toes into Marvel property? Well, they couldn't put Warner Brothers on it because Warner Brothers owns DC. And so and there's one big jab at DC in this movie. The whole entire movie is it mixes very well with the action, the comedy, and the drama, because there is it is a culmination of both their stories, and you find out why they are behaving like they are at the moment. So this, again, it's stupid fun. And they try to tie it in a little bit to the Avengers, but they feel that it's, and they even say this in the film, we feel that maybe you're not quite ready for that yet, and so it's, they may incorporate it down the line, but who knows. It has a good storyline with with the different universes and whatnot, and so it's worth it. I mean, it falls within the Deadpool canon and bringing in Wolverine. Of course, I can't help but mention that I need to bring up the rest of the Deadpool movies, because when, I forget, when was it? Was it 2018 when they did Once Upon a Deadpool? I am a firm believer that movie was created, and it was all that was a re-edit of Deadpool 2. That I believe that was training to us, the audience, to see how Deadpool would fare as a PG-13 film. Well, I think if they had made just an original movie that was PG-13, I think it would have been a little bit better. But instead they recut Deadpool 2 down to PG-13. Took some of the violence out, took the language out, and went from there. Now I'll bring you to Deadpool and Wolverine. This could have easily have been PG-13. But I think based on the numbers of Once Upon a Deadpool, and they even announced before they even went into production on this film, that this film was going to be rated R. And I think because of the numbers of Once Upon a Deadpool, maybe it wasn't enough to maybe it wasn't enough to stick with the PG-13 rating for this and just make it a full-blown rated R action comedy that's within the Marvel canon. And you know, for the longest time, I think there was some people who were very naive, um, and this was when when they did the first Avengers, and it made all that money, and there was a bunch of fans pitching stories about um, about how where they could go with the Avengers and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And some people were saying, you know, they could go with a darker story and go for an R-rated film, and there were some people that said, well, no, you can't, because it's Disney, and Disney's never made an R-rated movie. Well, that's a little bit of ignorance, because Disney has no problem releasing an R-rated film. As a matter of fact, they had Deadpool Wolverine, and now the next movie that they will be releasing is Alien Romulus, which is 20th Century Studios, which is now Disney. So, they have no problem releasing R-rated material. There was a commentator, I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he said something that was truthful, and he said Disney has no problem releasing R-rated material. They said, have you not seen any of the Touchstone Pictures lineup, or the Hollywood Pictures, or the old, because they really put Miramax on the map. Miramax had existed long before, but when Disney bought it, you know, that's when Tarantino started making his movies like Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill and all those movies, rated R. And they were released by Disney. So, yeah, Disney has no problem release R-rated material. This was well deserving of it. But like I said, it could have easily been rewritten and changed to PG-13. Was it necessary? That's among debate. But I think Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool. I'm sorry, but I think that, because he is that type of person in real life. And as a matter of fact, I saw he was a guest programmer for Turner Classic Movies, and he programmed Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and they were talking about the one scene where Steve Martin proceeds to drop the F-bomb 18 times in a 90-second scene. And Ryan Reynolds, I'm not going to quote exactly what he said, because he did curse. He did drop the F-bomb on live television on Turner Classic Movies. He said, you're going to burn the R rating for one scene, for that moment. And yeah. And but that was for play. He had programmed Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I don't think it was because of just because it was rated R. He was really they had brought him on, you know, as to help promote Deadpool Wolverine, but also he programmed it because one of his heroes as an actor is John Candy, and being a fellow Canadian, he thought that John Candy and just the way he performed that character in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles would be a good fit for that evening. But that being said, I Deadpool Wolverine, I think it fits perfectly within the canon, and it kind of does tie up some loose ends. It gave the fans what they wanted to see in the Deadpool universe, which was Wolverine and Deadpool teaming up together to fight off the evilness. Um, but but yeah, it's however the a big problem again I have with Disney is that again this film was woke. This film was woke, but the other two movies were also woke. Um, but the wokeness was not the necessarily the center point of the story, because it's just because of the fact that you have because the Deadpool series has um, the character, well, Yukio, and it has the lesbian couple. Okay, when the one girl is introduced in the first film, she's not seeing anybody, but she's also a teenager. By this film that they're an adult, but the fact that they have it, that's where I say it makes it woke. Um, but they also they put other things that is more upfront and centered. Like this is what you need to focus on. Don't focus on the fact that okay we have homosexual characters or anything like that. That's the thing. That's the thing. What's really taking everybody off. We don't, as a movie audience, we really don't care that you have characters with certain sexual preferences or their certain skin color, but don't go don't go putting the guilt card on it, and don't go mushing our face in it. That's the thing. This movie was woke. Yes, it had the inclusion of those types of characters, but it wasn't rubbing it in our face about it. What this was doing is say, hey, these are people whom I love. Because I'm not going to spoil what Wade is fighting. I'm telling you what he's fighting for, but I'm not going to spoil how he gets to and from where to get it. I mean, because those are the people whom he loves. He doesn't care that they do this or do that, look this way. Those are the people who are in his life, who he's doing life with. So, that being said, it is a woke film. Another woke film from Disney, but the thing, I hope Disney needs to learn their lesson and don't go rubbing our noses into this stuff that we don't really care about. It's not important. Stop. Inside Out 2 was non-woke. Oh my gosh. What a concept. The only thing woke about Inside Out 2 was that Riley has friends of different color. We all have different skin color. I have freckles on my arm. I can't control that. It's just a mess. It's just a mess of where we are in society. And now, don't take this in the wrong way, saying I hate these people. I don't. I don't hate anybody. what I hate is actions that are rubbing people into forcing to accept it. That's that's not right. How about just being kind? How about just being kind and being respectful to people? I know I just turned this into a woke rant, but that's what we're living in these days, and of course, this film did have woke things in it, but however, it wasn't. I didn't feel that was rubbing our nose into it. Now, there was a ton of jokes that were just off the wall, and you know, it's Deadpool, okay, so rated R, and so say some interesting little jokes are going to pop up in the film when you see it. So, but that was the way throughout the all the series, because and and Deadpool has like I said, it's always been that way. It has always been that type of tone, and it made it successful. So we'll see where they go with this. But I still think that Once Upon a Deadpool being rated PG-13, I think that was kind of training ground or testing ground to see how the audience would respond to Deadpool being rated PG-13. But I think what they should have done with that was just create an all-new movie that was PG-13 instead of recutting Deadpool 2 to fit as a PG-13. Again, this one could have been easy PG-13, but it didn't go that way, because about every other word was a word that you would not hear in a PG-13 movie. and shockingly, out of Wolverine. Now, Logan was rated R, but the X-Men films before that, he said it one time. Other than that, you don't hear it. It was very much, let's keep this PG-13 and so on and so forth. Now, one more thing, and then I'll close on Deadpool Wolverine, is that this was kind of poking fun and a tribute to the Fox Marvel franchise, because you will see, matter of fact, there's a part where they completely make fun of Planet of the Apes because Deadpool and Wolverine are sent to this one specific place, and it is basically the garbage that gets thrown out. So, it's pretty much the Fox Marvel brand. And as a matter of fact, when they land, the 20th Century Fox logo is buried in the sand, sticking out, like the planet, like the shot in the Planet of the Apes. Matter of fact, they have the Statue of Liberty just catty corner to the 20th Century Fox logo in the sand. And so, yeah, there is a dig at, there's several digs at the Fox Marvel brand and their characters, and so I guess it could be a metaphor of Marvel Studios since they've purchased 20th Century Fox to step in and save those franchises. But we'll wait and see what happens, because there was mentions of Daredevil, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, as well as there was several digs. There was little digs at the Avengers and all the other properties that's not as big as the Fox Marvel brand. So now it's time to move on to the next movie. Okay, so the next movie we're going to take a look at tonight is from the 1980s. It is from 1987. I realized something, that pretty much every weekend I've done this, I've always featured a film from the Criterion Collection. But tonight, this film was released in 1987. It was a fairly hit movie at the time. Originally released by Columbia Pictures, it is La Bamba, directed by Luis Valdez, starring Lou Diamond Phillips as the rock and roll legend Ritchie Valens. Yeah, and this came out about 7 years later after the Buddy Holly story. And now, it tells the same story because it's the same exact events, but it's from the point of view of Ritchie Valens and his rise to fame. And here was a young man who had only a few hit records within within 1 or 2 years, and yet his life was taken so tragically short in a plane crash, and that not only took the lives of Ritchie Valens, but took the lives of Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper. In which, a little bit of trivia, it wasn't even supposed to be the Big Bopper that was going to be on that plane. Think about that for a second. It was actually going to be another music legend and icon that was supposed to be on that plane. And he wasn't necessarily known for rock and roll. It was actually a country music legend. He was originally supposed to be in the place of the Big Bopper. That would be Waylon Jennings, because Waylon was good friends and part of Buddy Holly's band when the tragedy happened. But this film is from Ritchie Valens' point of view, so we will stop and take a look at La Bamba from 1987, released by Columbia Pictures. So here we go. Okay, so La Bamba from 1987, directed by Luis Valdez, starring Lou Diamond Phillips as Ritchie Valens. And this was Lou Diamond Phillips, actually, his first movie, actually. Because what's nice about the Criterion Collection is that their movies essentially the Criterion Collection is basically a film, class, and a box. That's their whole motif. And so they go a little bit deeper than what the studio would release. They do have like the materials that Sony Pictures has, but also the Criterion Collection will also produce exclusive supplements for their release. And so plus Criterion does an excellent job with their restoring and remastering and the supervision. With that being said, okay, La Bamba from 1987. This movie is a very entertaining movie. Great music, well performed, very dramatic and thematic of you know, it really dives deep into the family life of Richie, and you know, of course, each one of these stories has usually a tale in which they show that musical artists' problems, you know, where they came from, and whatever problems that they have to deal with. And in the case of Richie Valens, it wasn't so much his own drug addiction as it was family life and his brother's drug affliction, and how his brother was dealing dope and going out every night, getting drunk. Matter of fact, he got a close family friend of his pregnant, that she ends up living with the family, but it's he just takes advantage of her and doesn't really care. I mean, yeah. And now the brother's wife was played by Asai Morales. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name. I'm not really familiar with this. I'm sure he's been in a lot of things, but I do apologize for all that. But the wife was also played by Elizabeth Piena. She would go on a year later to star in the Steven Spielberg film Batteries Not Included, which Spielberg didn't direct it, but he produced it. And she's pregnant in that film as well. But I actually think she is actually pregnant. But this movie, she depicts it. But also it goes into Richie's like his personal loves. He's in love with a white girl, played by Danielle von Zenerik. His mother's played by Rosanna de Soto. And it goes into the music of Richie Valens, in which Richie only had 3 hit songs. 3 hit songs, and the songs were Come On Let's Go, Donna, which he wrote for his girlfriend, named after her, and of course La Bamba. And then Joe Pantoliano plays Richie's record producer, and how he was reluctant to so much as ever record a rock and roll version of La Bamba. But the rest is history. That it ended up being a big hit record for him, and what Richie Valens is known for is his version of La Bamba. Of course, if you don't know, La Bamba is a traditional Mexican folk song. It's, you know, you and I can take the song La Bamba and record it and not have any repercussions whatsoever, because it's public domain and it's a traditional folk song. We could do it like a country song or something like that. So it's, that's the benefits of being public domain. But in this case, in today's society, Joe Pantoliano, his character, he's very reluctant to record it, because it's it's again Mexican folk song, that he's afraid of getting backlash from the Mexican community about wrecking this tune. and now it would be because of stereotypes and things like that. So, um, but it goes. The film goes into, like I said, the personal turmoil that Richie was going through because he was only 18 years old when he was killed. Yeah, he was only 18 years old when he was killed. Goes into his loves, struggles, the brother putting, the brother dealing in the drugs and coming home drunk and not being at home when he's needed to be, all that, and it's something that nobody should ever have to go through. But it's a good film, but it's also a heartbreaking film. And you know, this wasn't the first movie to tackle a musical artist biopic. I think this one would kind of lay the groundwork for what would be movies like in the future, like Walk the Line, which was the Johnny Cash story, and Ray, which was Ray Charles' story. The interesting thing was that I bring that up because La Bamba was produced by Taylor Hackford. Taylor Hackford would go on to write and direct Ray, the Academy Award-winning film of Ray. But yeah, I think this is the film this film kind of laid the groundwork of what to do and how, that you could tell a story of how to tell the story of a popular music icon and be cinematic. But however, this film, La Bamba, it was praised by critics. It was a box office hit. Audiences loved it at the time, and but it did get a little bit of flack for its cinematic depiction because throughout the entire film they have it where Richie is constantly having nightmares of dying in a plane crash. And well, what happened? Well, Richie is killed in a plane crash. He was killed along with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper in 1959. Yeah, 1959. And he was, and like I said before, there was supposed to be. It was not originally supposed to be the Big Bopper on the plane. It was supposed to be country music icon Waylon Jennings on that plane instead of the Big Bopper. There's another story about that because they depict in this film Buddy Holly chartered the plane. Their bus had broke down and there was no heat, and Richie was sick. He was sick with a cold, a severe cold, because there was no heat on the bus, and he's forced to perform with this cold, and he calls back home to the producer Bob, not Bob, but the Joe Pantoliano's character, said, "Hey, get me home, okay? I'm gonna have to cancel the rest of this tour because I'm sick and I need to come home." And he just goes, "Well, Richie, Richie, just check into a hotel. That's all I can tell you," or something like that. And but so he finds out, well, Buddy has chartered an airplane for us, and they have a coin toss. Whoever wins the coin toss gets to ride in the plane to go back home. Well, it's Richie that makes the call. He said, "The rest of you have to hit the bus." Well, if the truth be told, it was that coin toss was really between the Big Bopper and Waylon Jennings. And Waylon was the one that had to take the bus. Well, Waylon survived. Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, and the Big Bopper did not. So, yeah, this is one that doesn't have a happy ending to it, unfortunately. It is based on a true story, what actually happened. There was some people killed. Obviously, families were hurt. And, and also music was changed. Matter of fact, Don McLean wrote the famous song, American Pie, based on this event, and it's coined the term the day the music died. And it was not because of Ritchie Valens that Don McLean wrote the song. It was Buddy Holly. His influence was Buddy Holly. And so, yeah, that's what happened. And even more about the film, there's 3 musical people that we need to talk about that's involved with the film. We have Brian Setzer playing Eddie Cochran in the film, and of course Brian Setzer loves that rockabilly sound, and you know he is a rock and roll star, but he loves that rockabilly sound, and so he's in here playing Eddie Cochran, playing the Summertime Blues. And so but also we have Carlos Santana collaborating on score with Miles Goodman, I believe. Yeah, Miles Goodman and Carlos Santana are providing the musical score, the instrumental score, and so I should say 4 people. And of course, Los Lobos providing all of the Ritchie Valens music. And so anytime that you hear Ritchie sing in the film, it's not Lou Diamond Phillips. It was this Mexican-American group called Los Lobos. And as a matter of fact, when this movie came out, I barely remember this movie. This is the first time of me seeing this movie since the network television premiere back in the late 80s. So, this is the first time we've seen it since I was a real little kid. This movie came out when I was 3 years old, and we never saw it in the theater. I was probably a little too young. This movie was PG-13, and there's some strong language in it. But I remember the Los Lobos version of La Bamba being played on the radio quite a bit, and that's how I came to know the song La Bamba. And then that introduced me to Ritchie Valens, and Ritchie Valens introduced the La Bamba. So what have I heard most? I've heard Ritchie Valens' version of La Bamba more than I've heard the Los Lobos version. So but the first version I heard was Los Lobos. So if that makes any sense. So yeah, there's a lot of music involved with this film, and very well done. Normally if this was made by, say like for example, in Walk the Line when they do Johnny Cash, yes, it is Joaquin Phoenix was doing the singing and everything, but what they try to do is, yes, it's a new recording, but they'll do the music just like they did back in the 1950s. So And now with Ray, that was a combination of both Jamie Foxx singing, Ray doing like a Ray Charles impersonation, and he was singing. He sang a little bit like when Ray would go to put a song together, he would kind of sing it out a little bit. Well, that would be Jamie Foxx doing that. But other than that, you heard the original tracks. Now for this film, they created brand new recordings in modern style. So when you hear the Los Lobos track, it's too I guess that's my criticism of the music, is that it's a little bit too modern of recording. What they should have tried to do was try to duplicate what the original record sounded like, instead of doing these modern recordings with modern sound to produce the track. But that made its way to the soundtrack, and ended up being a hit for that group. So I'm going to call it for a night. That was La Bamba. And so, again, I'm going to call it for a night. Well, I think that's going to be it for this weekend. Not just calling it for the night, but calling it for the weekend. Didn't get to do a whole lot, unfortunately. Today seemed like it was just like, oh, I had to get some other stuff done before I could even think about sitting down and watching a movie. So we're only going to get 2 in this weekend, unfortunately. But do pay attention to the rest of the channel, and for the rest of these movies. So I'm going to try to bring it in about every weekend. There's not going to be it's not going to be that way every weekend. So in case you're wondering, no, this is all the same weekend. I just happened to go in, get a shower, and shave. So yeah, I think we're just going to call it for this weekend. But do check out the movies that I reviewed. So we managed to see Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as La Bamba. So do check those films out. Deadpool Wolverine is playing at your local theater. Check for local listings and showtimes. And La Bamba is part of the Criterion collection. So check on, if you have the Criterion channel, check there. Check in at various, just Google and various, just type in La Bamba in Google. I'm sure it'll pop up to a link where you can stream it somewhere. See, that's the thing with movies that are on Criterion. Yeah, you could possibly look at Turner Classic Movies, and they do have some of the Criterion collection on Max, the Max streaming service, but who knows? Just again, like I said, just Google it and see if it brings up any place that you can watch it for a certain rate, whether you are paying for a subscription service or not. But yeah, do check those movies out. Much fun. So hopefully by next weekend we will we'll be able to watch a few more movies, talk about them. There's also some other stuff I want to talk about, and plus I was just looking at some of the footage that I cut together, and I'm already about an hour, so I think it's long enough. And plus we are able to get 2 films in, because I did like to ramble about those 2 movies. So have a good week. We'll see you next time. Until then, see you later.